Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a really interesting gun in the Smith Wesson M&P lineup. This is the M&P 22 Magnum. I believe this is Smith Wesson's competition to guns from companies like Taurus and Kel-Tec that are also making 22 Magnum pistols. And personally, I have always been perplexed by people that want a gun chambered in this caliber. There's no doubt that this is a cool caliber and probably a little bit better than 22 long rifle, but with every caliber you have pros and cons, and many of the cons of a 22 long rifle also apply to the 22 Magnum. It's still rimfire. You're probably going to have problems when it comes to the primer having ignition. The case here is going to be longer, so we're probably going to have some feeding issues. But there are so many companies that are trying to put 22 Magnum into a semi-automatic platform because they sell. There's just something about this combination that people want for some reason. And I'm honestly, as I said, a little bit perplexed about it. But we're going to talk about both the caliber and this firearm in just a moment. But before we do, I always want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool pistol. He's a local fan and subscriber. His name is Jack. Jack, thank you so much, as well as donating some ammo for this review as well. And I always want to thank my Patreon supporters as always, because through their monthly donation and support, they help keep the lights on around here and all this content coming. I could not do it without them. So thank you so much, Patreons. And if you want to join my Patreon, there is a link in the description. And as always, I want to thank the person that is my primary sponsor and always provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, especially in this case, some CCI Maxi Mags for this review. He is one of the best grip manufacturers in the world. His name is Mark, and he's from a company called Brownworks. And while I know this gun here does not take wood panel grips, most likely you have a gun in your collection like a Colt 1911, a Beretta 92, a Browning High Power, or a CZ75, and you're thinking to yourself, it would be really nice to have a set of the highest quality grips, maybe with a custom logo, a custom engraving, made out of exotic woods, finished to your specification, maybe something out of a laminate wood. Well, I have the perfect company for you, Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making sets of grips that are one of a kind, one off for each customer's needs and desires. Mark over there is an artist. He's a craftsman. He's always coming up with new and innovative products. Anything that you can imagine that you want to see on grips for your guns, he can make it. So I'm going to put a link in the comment section below to his website, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. I'm going to ask that you guys go over there, check him out, see what he has to offer, and when you do contact him, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk again about what this gun is. This is, again, the Smith Wesson M&P 22 Magnum pistol. So obviously, because it is from the M&P line, you have much of the same stylings and features that you would find on guns like the M&P 9, M&P 45. You have a very familiar look, manual of arms, same finish, same quality of polymer, which I know a lot of people are going to like. And of course, this is a competitor to companies like Kel-Tec that are selling tons and tons of these 22 Magnum semi-automatic pistols for some reason. I think Smith & Wesson wants to get in on that game. But because they're Smith & Wesson, they might be making a better product, because you guys know I'm very critical of companies like Kel-Tec. They are very innovative. They're always forward-thinking, but the execution of those designs sometimes is very lacking. And Smith & Wesson, though, has a long tradition of great firearms manufacturing. So who knows, maybe they've taken this concept and really made a really high-quality gun out of it. But as I also mentioned, the heart of this gun is a 22 Magnum, and some people are really going to like that, and some people are going to scratch their heads going, why do you want that in a semi-auto pistol? But like I said, every caliber is a trade-off. There's a pro and a con. If there was one great caliber, we wouldn't even have the great caliber debates. There wouldn't be people asking 9 or 45. Well, in this case, 22 long rifle or 22 Magnum. But let's talk about those. The downsides, in my opinion, to a gun like this is that 22 Magnum is still a rimfire cartridge. Yeah, you're going to have primary ignition issues in all rimfire cartridges. So you might have more power, which of course is the big plus of .22 Magnum, but you might have the same reliability issues that you would with .22 long rifle. And because the casing is so much longer, well, you might have some feeding issues. Of course, when it comes to these magazines, look how long those magazines really have to be from the front to the back. That is a big distance, and when those rounds have to be fed out of that, they have to come out of there at a certain angle or you're going to have problems. Now, when it comes to recoil, well, you're getting a little bit more powerful round than .22 long rifle, and you're going to get about the same recoil, which is really nice, but you're going to get a much bigger report and much more flash, and that might be distracting to some people. So you have to ask yourself, what is this gun trying to be? Is it a personal defense firearm? Is it a novelty? Is it just a range toy? Is it just something that's mechanically interesting to you that you just have to have in your collection? Well, that's really kind of up to you, but I'm going to share with you my thoughts and experiences with this. And let's start off with the things about this pistol that I really do like. And let's talk about the fact it is a Smith Wesson M&P. I've already told you it has the same aesthetics, the same build quality as all of the other pistols in the M&P lineup. I mean, you have to admit that is a very attractive pistol. It's very nice. The metal that this slide is made out of does not feel like pot metal. This gun does not feel like a toy like you have with guns like the Kel-Tec. It really does feel like the craftsmanship and the design of this gun allow for good quality materials to be used. And I think that is obviously a huge plus. I also, as I said, like the aesthetics of this gun. So if you're familiar with the manual of arms of a gun like the M&P 9, this is going to feel very natural in your hand, as well as the grip texture. Now, the grip texture of this gun is very reminiscent of the M2.0 series. However, it does not seem to be as aggressive. Another big advantage to this gun are these magazines. They hold a lot of ammunition, a lot. We're talking 20 plus rounds. And so you do get a lot of firepower in that as well. And something else that I really like about this from a mechanical standpoint that I find very interesting is this gun does have a locking system. Now, I know this is kind of hard to show on camera here, but you will notice that the barrel right here, well, my slide went forward just a little bit, is out of battery. And this little motion of this barrel, because it slides in a sleeve, allows the gun to be locked up for a little bit more time. I really do prefer guns to have a locking mechanism versus them being just straight blowback. I find that mechanically the straight blowback guns have more issues than ones that have small locking systems. And you don't have to have too much of a locking system on this for it to be more reliable, but I'm sure glad Smith & Wesson did do this with this gun, and I believe they borrowed the design of this from the M&P 5.7, which I have reviewed in the past and was really impressed with. The last two things that I really like just having it here on the workbench are the sights. We have a nice fiber optic sight here in the front. We have blacked out sights in the back, and we also get a manual safety. I really feel that all rimfire pistols do need to have a manual safety. I know some people are going to say it doesn't need a manual safety. I totally get it. However, I'm a big fan of this manual safety. It really does engage and disengage well. That detent is nice and strong, and I really do like having that option. But now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like, and that list is actually going to be very small. And speaking of small, that's my first gripe. This trigger guard is very, very small. Let me see if I can get that into focus there. As you'll see, I have kind of bigger fingers. Not too big, but they're kind of big and fat. And my finger barely can fit in this trigger guard to get it in front of that trigger. I'm just used to bigger trigger guards. So I do not think you could use this gun with gloves or during the winter time when your hands might be covered in something. I find that that trigger guard is very, very tiny. The last thing I do not like is an aesthetic issue that I have with some of the M&Ps and other guns of this caliber, in that you see the slide to frame gap is a little bit on the big side. And I have noticed this in all the pictures I have seen online. You can see that gap in there, and I do not know why it is there. I still believe they could do something with the frame and the slide to eliminate that. Now, some guns have that to some degree, but the gap on this is just way too big. At least it is even from front to back. I've actually seen it on some other guns made by other manufacturers where maybe the front gap is a lot bigger than the rear gap. But to me, that looks kind of cheap. If you can see through your gun, I definitely think that there is an issue. All right, so let's get this gun to the range. Let's see how it shoots. So as always, I want to get my initial thoughts and impressions. So I'm going to load up one of these magazines. I'm going to set the target out at just 7 yards. And I'm just going to shoot this thing, see what it's like. What is the recoil like? See if I discover anything about this gun that I like or don't like that I did not discover here on the workbench. Of course, see if it's accurate and reliable. And then we'll go from there and we'll do some other tests. And I'll just give you guys my initial thoughts and impressions. And there's absolutely no doubt that this gun is fun to shoot. I mean, it is a .22 Magnum pistol. You get a big old fireball. There's almost no recoil whatsoever. You get a big capacity, but I did have a big issue with it, and you might not have caught it in that initial range footage. But I was hit a number of times in the face by unspent powder, and I was using this ammunition right here in the initial test, and this is the stuff that Jack let me have. It's made by Colorado Buck, and I was told this was going to be a pretty reliable loading of .22 Magnum. And to show you the problem I was having, and I was feeling unspent powder being burnt on my arms and on my face, and of course this is why you definitely always need to use eye protection when you're at the range. Well, I'm going to show you some slow motion here, and I'll show you my face being hit by this unspent powder. Now, I've never really had this issue before with any other gun. However, I do believe it has to do something with this ammunition. We're going to try some CCI Maxi Mags a little bit later. If I have the same issue with that, well, I know then it's probably the gun. But right now, my gut tells me it's the ammunition. But once again, always wear safety eye protection whenever you're at the range, even if you feel like you're shooting a really safe gun, because you don't want any of that coming back into your eyes. So far, the gun seems to be accurate, it is reliable, it is fun to shoot, has a big old blast, and I know some people are going to ask me, what's the trigger pull like? Well, I can't bring out the trigger pull gauge on this video because the shape of this trigger is kind of flat, not quite flat, but also it has a blade safety, and I have tried to record the trigger pulls on this gun, and I cannot get them to be on that trigger in the same spot every time and to pull the gauge accurately. It was just too difficult to do. So I will tell you that my pulls on this trigger were anywhere between 3.8 pounds and 5 pounds. And I think because of that blade safety, which also I really do like, and it would prevent a negligent discharge, it makes putting a trigger gauge on this a little bit difficult. So it's definitely somewhere between 3.8 and 5 pounds, somewhere in there. It does feel like when you pull the trigger, it is pretty consistent. I didn't have any other issues with it, but that's about where it is. And just from my own muscle memory, it does feel about 4 to 4.5 pounds in general. All right, so now let's load up another magazine. I'm going to try out this Colorado Buck .22 mag a little bit more. We're going to set up the target at a further distance and just make sure this gun continues to perform reliably and see if I still have any of this weird unspent powder issue. And at the further distance, this gun was starting to shoot really low, and I had to kind of walk it up. And you can see from my grouping there, I realized it's shooting low, and let's move it on up. So that just could be the sights of this. I would have to get used to it, but the sights do seem to be generally pretty much on. You would just have to spend a little bit of time figuring out exactly where the point of impact would be. And unfortunately, with this ammunition, I was still getting hit in the face. So let me show you a little bit more slow motion, because I know some of you guys probably want to see that because you don't like me, like, ha ha ha, he's getting hit in the face. But I also want to show you the issue, because I think this is really important when it comes to a gun like this, and it's another reason why, as I mentioned, always wear eye protection. All right, so I have no further observations, concerns, or comments about this gun. It just seems to work. It does what it's supposed to do. I just got to learn where the point of impact is. Well, now I'm going to bench rest this as always, but now I'm going to try some of the CCI Maxi Mags. Now, this is supposed to be some of the best 22 Magnum ammo on the market. So we're going to set out the target about as far as I can go at this indoor range. I'm going to go for the center of this target and see if this gun shoots a good group at this distance. And now we experience our first issue. It was a loading issue because, as I mentioned before, when it comes to this ammunition, the casing is a lot longer, and so this ejection port is really long as well, and this slide has to come back a long way. And so picking that round out of the magazine, it has to be at just the perfect angle. Now, I was able to easily get that round in battery. I didn't have any other issues. This is just something that you have to be aware of when it comes to a gun chambered in 22 Magnum. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest downsides about this caliber in a semi-automatic pistol. As for this ammunition, it ran a lot better than the Colorado Buck. I did not have any issues with unspent powder burning my arms or my face. So I think if you're going to have a gun like this, in this caliber, it's really important to get some of the best ammunition that you can, experiment with it, and see what works the best for you. And if you have any issues with it, move on to something else. Now, I have to say, I think that was a pretty darn good group. It was hard for me to see the points of impact when I was bench resting it because 22 is such a small caliber, and at that distance, without using any type of a magnified optic, I really couldn't tell where the rounds were going. It's just not as impressive on paper as let's say 9 or 45. So if you're thinking about having this gun for personal protection, although this is not a ballistics gel test, you can just see from it hitting the paper, well, you have the little tiny 22s as compared to what you're used to with 45, 9, or 40. I really feel like 9 is just the better way to go. I would always recommend a center fire cartridge for self-defense over a rimfire. But as I said, I know people are really interested in this because they really love the caliber and you might be wanting to use it for self-defense. It's just one of those things that I think you do need to take into account and consider when it comes to the gun that you carry and the caliber that you use. All right, and the next test I want to do is the quick magazine change test. I always like to do this because I like to shoot these guns fast. I really feel like I'll be able to with this really nice Smith & Wesson trigger. But the other reason is this magazine just flies out of here. It shoots out of here just like I would want. So let me see how fast I can shoot this thing, drop the mag, get a new one in here. And by the way, this mag well is very, very narrow. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue at all. But then get the gun back in action, shoot as fast as I can again, and see what the results are. And I have to tell you, out of all the 22 Magnum pistols that I have shot and reviewed, this one hands down has the best trigger pull. I don't want to show you the trigger pull because it is a rimfire cartridge, and so I don't want that firing pin to hit the wall of the chamber, but trust me, this trigger is really nice with a very short reset, and as you saw, the magazine drops free. Absolutely love that. The next thing I want to do is give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this. I'm really curious what she's going to think, especially about the grip. She is a little bit grip texture sensitive. The other thing I'm curious about, her thoughts on, is how long this grip is from the front strap to the back strap, even though the gun is very, very thin. So the dimensions of this can be, I think, a little bit awkward. It's definitely different than, let's say, a 9mm pistol where you get a little bit of a fatter grip. So it's kind of a big gun with a very thin grip. So let me load up a magazine, give her a chance to shoot it, and see what her thoughts are.
Don't pull the trigger, okay? Okay, and go down a little bit. Reroute. Go. Stagnant. Yeah, better. All right, reroute.
And to my surprise, even though she didn't shoot as well as I was hoping, she said that she really liked it. She even liked the grip texture, which surprised me, and she liked the shape of this grip. So it's not too big, it's not too wide when it comes, as I said, from the front strap to the back strap, but I would definitely recommend that you hold one of these before you purchase one. It might be a little bit odd for you depending on the shape of your hand. For me, it works well. For my wife, it seems to work well, but it definitely does feel different than other guns. So definitely go and rent one or handle one at a gun store before possibly purchasing them if you think that is something that might be bothersome to you. All right, so the last thing I want to do before I give you guys my final thoughts on this, of course, is do a complete mag dump on this. Just shoot this thing fast. This thing is so much fun to shoot, and I will tell you that is one of the big things about this gun that I like. It's just fun to shoot. It has almost no recoil whatsoever, and you get a huge flash. I absolutely love it. So here we go. One magazine completely loaded, and I'm going to dump this thing as fast as I possibly can. And I'm really impressed because I think I can shoot this thing pretty darn fast. I like those results. This is a fun gun. So for me personally, when it comes to what this gun is, it's not a self-defense handgun. I would never use it for that. It's not a home defense handgun. However, for me, it would be a range gun, something fun to take to the range. It's not a novelty because I think it is well constructed. It's not odd. It's just fun to shoot, something that you would take to the range. You want to show your buddies and go, look at this big flash. It's so much fun, but almost no recoil whatsoever. So for me, it's a range toy. But who knows, maybe some of you are looking at this for home defense. And as I said, when it comes to a gun like this, chambered in this caliber, make sure you really think about it. I'm not telling you it's a bad choice for you or a good choice for you. Just make sure you understand the pros and cons of this caliber and a gun like this. So what are my final thoughts on the Smith & Wesson M&P 22 Magnum? Well, this gun really has impressed me. I might not shoot it as well as I would like, but I am very happy with its performance. I only had that one feeding issue, and I had that issue with that certain ammunition where I had the unspent powder coming back and burning my arm and hitting me in the face, but that was the ammunition and not the gun. I like the mechanics of this gun with that locking system and that barrel in that sleeve. I really feel, as compared to its competitors, this is the nicest made 22 Magnum pistol on the market. I think the polymer is really good quality. The metal that goes into the slide is just as good as you'll find on the big brother M&Ps. It's just a good gun with tons of options, lots of capacity. It feels good in your hand. It does not feel like a toy. I'm very impressed with it. So on my star system, how would I rate the Smith & Wesson M&P 22 Magnum? Well, I could easily give this 4.5 stars out of 5 for what the gun is. Now, when it comes to my personal desire for this gun, I am so glad that I got to review it. It is definitely fun. I don't know if I would spend the money on it personally, because for me, it would just be a range toy. And 22 Magnum, I don't think really gives you that much more that 22 long rifle does, but also it's not as powerful as a gun like 380 or 9mm, which I think is a much more viable candidate for concealed carry or home defense. But it is a lot of fun. It is well built. I really enjoyed shooting it, and mechanically it's very interesting. And I'm going to do a field strip on this to show you guys what this locking mechanism is like in this barrel sleeve. So you'll have to find that in the next video. So let me know what you think about 22 Magnum. Do you think it's really a cool caliber to have in a semi-automatic pistol? Is this a gun that you would like? But as I said, if you are looking for a semi-auto 22 mag, I would definitely look at this gun because it seems to be the best quality as compared to all of the other offerings that are on the market. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.